Oops.
Exactly.
No.
I know. Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
When I get a male in here,
Mm-hmm.
it's really exciting.
I suppose, because you probably don't get. Yeah, I was just going to ask what your, the demographics are. I'm sure there's not.
It's
a whole
mostly
lot.
women, but
Yeah.
that's just typical of the weight loss industry.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things I want to ask.
Yeah.
How much you've actually dieted quite a bit, or at least you wrote down 2 diets you've done specifically, South Beach and Nutrisystem.
Yep.
Are there other things that you've done in between those 2?
Intense exercise was my other.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's usually the case for
Yeah.
most men because
Yeah.
there's body image in terms of I want to get bigger. There's a lot more exercise involved with how men tend to try to resolve an issue.
Right.
Did your mother or father have dieting issues? What I mean by that is this. Did they talk about going on a diet? Did they talk about being overweight? Did you have a sibling that did that, or an aunt or an uncle? Is there anybody in your family that made weight a very important topic?
Well, I remember during the 70s, Mom was doing the Weight Watchers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she has to be like a chronic Weight Watchers person.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which is weight watching.
Right.
So there's a lot of conversation. Did you watch her weigh herself?
I think when we were kids, we got drug along to the meetings. Yeah.
That's
the weigh-ins and
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Drug along to the meetings.
Mhm.
This is typical
Yeah.
of when I see a male that's dieting. There's usually a link
Right.
between what you saw in the home quite a bit because
Right.
you're modeled that it's an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
That how much you weigh. Do you know what weight is measuring? It's gravity's
Oh,
pull.
yeah, right. Yeah.
That's what you're monitoring is
Yeah.
how much are you pulling to the earth?
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay? And how important was that to your mother? Part of that is because we are so criticized. There's a lot of criticism based on the way you look and feel. And how often were you criticized for having a weight problem?
Since I was, all through school. Yeah. Yeah, I've always been, the plump, chubby kid.
If you looked back
Uh-huh.
at pictures of you, were you really plump and chubby?
Once, during high school, no, not really, but I felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it between friends or was
Yeah.
it family? It was mostly just friends.
Friends, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were always much more leaner than I was, yeah.
Okay. So they just took something that made you different and had fun with it. It
Oh,
wasn't
they had a lot.
necessarily
Right.
personal, but
Right.
I'm not surprised you're sitting here right
Mhm.
now. Here is
Yeah.
the problem. Once you feel like there's something flawed about you, whether it's I've got too much fat on my body, it becomes something that you really want to get rid of because it's a vulnerability. You don't want someone to pay attention to how much fat you have. It's just stupid.
Yep.
It's superficial.
Yep.
So what happens is then once you begin to use the body for or against you, the way it looks, you're going to manipulate your food intake.
Oh, yeah.
That's you can't have an image of I need to fix my body, I need to improve my body without it consequently affecting behavior. So when you think about the way you've been eating, when did you start changing the way you ate with the goal of potentially losing that fat? Do you remember when you first started changing your food intake or feeling that food was a vulnerability?
Yeah, I would probably say in my mid-30s or so, things kind of started, I could see things kind of slowing down. I'm like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
And
So your body really made a change at that point.
it did, yeah.
And okay, so that's when you started doing the exercising, the South Beach. And did you find that improved things? Did you restrict your food at all?
I think I tended more to do the intense exercise to say, if I do, burn these so many calories a day, then I can just basically eat anything I want.
Okay, so did your food intake go up while you exercised?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is so typical.
Yeah.
This is typical.
Yeah.
So you actually didn't do anything,
No,
but you did get in shape.
I did.
The issue, exercise needs to be a completely different entity than food intake. Once they start getting meshed, problems.
Yeah.
Do you see don't you think exercise should be for other reasons?
It
Like
should,
if you
yeah.
could exercise this in a way that wasn't influenced by what you ate that day or how much you ate,
Yeah.
can you just even sense there's freedom in that? Because you're not compensating for anything.
Right.
It's exercising for reasons you should be exercising.
Right.
So I cannot emphasize enough that you need to divorce the relationship between your food intake and exercise. Because what happens if you're not going to lose weight is what happens to your exercise. For most people, it literally just goes away. So they only exercise when they're trying to manipulate food.
Yeah.
One way or the other. There's plenty of people who exercise to eat more.
Yes.
So it can actually make a relationship, an emotional relationship with food, even bigger.
Yeah.
Because there's more entitlement to it.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, did you start weighing yourself to see if there'd be change? Or
little.
did you use monitoring of your size?
Personally, I did, how my clothes felt. That's how I kind of gauged it.
Yeah.
But I was in the Air National Guard, where everything is, the 60-year-old BMI charts and the weights and things like that. So then it became, I need to buy a scale and go that way. So, yeah.
Okay, and then did you, so when did you start dieting instead of over-exercising and then overeating? When did you realize the exercise/eating concept was a big failure?
Probably the last, a couple of years ago, I got a personal trainer and worked out 3 times a week, and I gained a lot of muscle.
Felt good.
Felt good, but was just ravenous 24 hours a day.
How much of that was influenced by the idea that I've done so much work, I've earned it?
Oh, sure. There was a component.
So you need to understand that when you say I was ravenous, most of it's emotional.
Oh, okay.
You probably were hungrier because you're metabolically creating more demand. Hormonally, you're actually more balanced, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
However, how much of that I was ravenous was influenced by that exercise concept?
Yeah. And there's always that, there is that reward type
That's
mentality.
what it is.
Yeah.
I've done this much, therefore.
Exactly.
So really, if you were to be just completely honest, if someone else was telling you this, what would you tell them the problem is?
The problem is that you're just eating at the wrong times and you eat too much.
No, my God, you totally didn't answer that right. I'm kidding.
Pause.
I'm going to beat you up now.
Yes,
Let's turn this
okay.
off. No. The problem is that you've got too much invested in food.
Oh, yeah.
Because ultimately, if you just didn't change your eating and you exercised, what do you think would have happened? If you didn't entitle yourself to food as reward or use food as a tool for whatever it was.
Right.
If there wasn't an emotional tie to food or a relationship between food and exercise in your mind.
Yeah.
If you just exercised because you wanted to feel good, because you wanted to take care of your body, because you want to have more muscle, you just want to feel good in general and stay whatever it is.
Right.
What do you think would have happened to your body?
I probably would have lost weight.
Totally. So what's the problem? There's a relationship with food. You can obviously say, yes, I was eating too much, my portions, I need to eat. Yes,
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Why? That's the question you need to start asking yourself. Where is this relationship with food going wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And is it the food or is it the person who's using the food?
Well, it's not the food.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people still keep on blaming food, and it's just really ridiculous.
No, I've gotten over that.
Good.
Bad food thing. So.
Good.
Yeah.
So when you look at the big picture, you really need to tackle that relationship, the role food has played in your life for whatever reason. Going through here, you talk about, sorry. You talk about stress eating.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the other thing. You typically eat one big meal a day. You put that as your worst food habit. Is it because you're busy, don't plan, don't prepare, why is that?
I think there's some maybe not being as prepared as I should be, but other times it's just I'm not hungry.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And then you wait too long.
And then it's just way too much. And then,
well, tell me, the feelings you have the moment, so if you overeat, let's say in the evenings, or whatever time it is that you're like, oh my God, I'm going to kill someone, I'm so hungry.
Right.
There's always a dialogue going on in your mind. There is this, because you're constantly on a diet. Don't even try to argue with that. Once you start dieting, it is constant, because even if you do lose weight, you have to maintain it. So you're constantly dieting just to maintain what you lost. So it is a constant battle. Right. It doesn't go away when you lose the weight. Okay. So if you're constantly on a diet, I already know there's a dialogue in your mind of what you should and shouldn't be eating because it needs to be approved or not approved, or it's the good bad. Then there's the quantity in your mind. You're observing how much you're eating.
Yeah.
But your body is saying, look, dude, you freaking sucked, and I really need this because we may be having famine again.
Yeah.
So you're compensating for survival mechanism, but you're criticizing it the whole time. I already know that. Mm-hmm. So then you feel bad, and then you're like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's just not worry about it. I don't want to have to feel bad or guilty. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and entitle myself because it's reward, because I worked hard, because I didn't eat lunch. I didn't have those calories. Right. How common is that in your mind? Well, I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat all those calories. Therefore, I could actually consume this many calories if I really to equal it out, right? Like that actually is true. Like, really? The body thinks in terms of calories?
Exactly.
No. So it's a mental game that you're playing. And not only that, but it's criticism based on your body's survival mechanisms when you starve all day. You shouldn't be criticizing that just drive to eat. It's something that everybody gets if you underconsume over a long period of time. Yeah. So even if you were to just acknowledge that alone, that if you don't eat all day, you're going to have an intense drive to consume at some point.
Yes.
What happens to then how you feel about eating? If there's no guilt involved with that. Well, then you're going to slow down, to be honest with you. Yeah. You slow down, you don't start criticizing the food. It's almost more nurturing rather than, I got to hoard it.
Yeah.
Can you put yourself in that mental frame?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll take a little. Yeah.
Well, you need to try it out.
Yeah, oh, exactly.
Now, I'm not saying let's intentionally undereat all day.
See what happens.
Yeah, but you have to recognize that how much of your behavior, this overconsumption of food, is directly linked to sense of emotional deprivation and guilt. Guilt, shame, guilt, judgment. How much judgment do you have towards food and your body in a day?
Wow. Well, judgment toward the body is just, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I see myself in the mirror.
That's the byproduct of the concept of body image, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
like your body is your biggest flaw. It is your biggest enemy. Like, it's that important, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, but that's taught. That's you've been conditioned to think that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, great. That's this. How do you like it?
It sucks.
Isn't it just when you pull yourself out and look at it, it's frustrating?
It really is, yeah.
Because it's a waste of why would you be so defined by this? It is such a waste of your own energy and your own expression. This is where the stress eating may come in, because stress eating, to me, for most people, what I've observed is directly linked to feeling deprived. And if you have a stress outside of physical deprivation, let's say a deprivation of emotion or a sense of not feeling well emotionally, oftentimes we're trying to medicate it. And if you've been deprived yourself of food, and you consciously feel deprived of food and pleasure with food, what are you more likely to go towards when you're having stressors in other areas of your life?
Well, it's going to go toward food.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So what we've got to be able to do for you as well is to no longer diet. That's the first thing we have to do. All right. Because you're setting yourself up by depriving yourself or feeling guilty about food. Let me ask the question and see if you can kind of connect these dots. If you could eat anything you want, anytime you want, no guilt, no shame, okay?
Yeah.
And always feel that there's abundance, okay? You're never deprived of anything. It is always, and there's no guilt. So you are allowed anything you want, anytime you want, and there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no judgment. No one is criticizing you, and no one gives a shit about the way you look, okay?
Okay.
Unconditional love. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, something really stressful happens in your life. What happens now to your behavior? Where's your outlet?
Right at this moment?
No, in that scenario.
In that scenario. Well, there's other ways to deal with stress.
Well, would you go to food?
Not if I'm better.
Well, does this make sense? Because you're not being deprived of it. So
right.
What I'm trying to help you see is that your behavior with food for stress is really about you feeling deprived of food.
Okay.
If you don't have a sense of deprivation with food and you're dealing with stress, do you really need to go get more food? I mean, it really kind of changes everything.
Yeah.
Just by changing your state of mind and how you perceive things.
Yeah.
Because there's no concept. If you're loved unconditionally, you accept the body as it is today. Yeah. There's no deprivation of anything. Right. Do you really need to overeat?
Right. No.
Am I coercing you to say that?
No, it's.
Are you getting the concept of wow?
It's actually it's kind of liberating actually, because I'm like, all right, so stuff's going to happen throughout the day. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be emotional challenges. But I'm like, oh shit, this is coming down. This is going to be an emotional challenge. So how am I going to deal with the food part of this? Because I know I've connected the dots myself. Like crappy day. Somebody's going to eat a little bit more. So. Well,
that's all because it's not the crappy day. It's the fact that you feel deprived of food, and that's one thing you're going to then entitle yourself to.
Yeah.
If you're not being deprived of food, what happens with the crappy day? If you're not being deprived, do you really need to go get some food?
No.
It goes away.
Right.
It literally goes away. And what are you left to deal with? Your shitty attitude, which is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need a dose of reality because your life is freaking amazing compared to someone else's.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So ultimately, it forces you to take ownership of your bad attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, because if you really don't have if you're not deprived of anything, if you have everything you want, eventually you're stuck with yourself.
Yeah, right.
Because you don't need anything anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to be. Because ultimately then you look inward. You don't look outward anymore. You look at what is wrong with the way I'm viewing things, because ultimately that is the source of the problem.
Absolutely. Yep.
Your body fat is a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't even make sense to try to remove your fat until you deal with your own head in the way you're viewing things. So this right here, you know what I'm going to point at, is a product of that.
Okay.
So, because I think if you could right now kind of erase and start over.
Well, that'd be great.
Well, what parameters have you set to where you can't do that? What parameter? What is it that you're being defined by that you feel is keeping you from being able to just go, start over?
Well, at this point, no, that's why I'm here. I want the reset button.
Well, is it physical reset?
No.
That is a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful healing thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you don't hit the reset in the way you're viewing your life and who you are and everything around it, then you will recreate the situation.
Yeah.
So we can gift you physical healing.
Right.
But that isn't the problem. It isn't. It's not going to make things better by looking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand that. You've got that wisdom. At 20 years old, you probably would have said, whatever, I get more chicks.
Dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're beyond that now. And I really, really think if you can let go of this whole physical parameter, that will be a beginning step for you, because that is such a huge part, would you not agree, of how you feel about your worth.
Yeah.
How much of your sense of value have you attached to the way your body looks, and how much fat you have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Quite a bit.
Which affects how much sex you have, which for a man is a big deal. I mean, there's a layering effect gender-wise. Women's sexual appeal is a big part. Your sexual appeal is a big part. So even that, I mean, if you look at what you need to just redefine, it really comes down to how you view who you are. And it doesn't get better when you have a better-looking body.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because if it does, now you have another problem. Because you got to keep that body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you become one of those people that hangs out in the gym for hours on end doing bicep curls, looking at their biceps in the mirror. Yeah, look at my bicep.
Yeah. Yep.
I know.
Yep.
So with this process, I'm going to encourage you to take 100% ownership of starting over.
Absolutely.
And it starts with how you feel about yourself. It doesn't start with how you feel about your body. Because that's really a big part of the problem.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, how you feel about the food and the guilt and the body and the shame and loathing. There's a lot of self-loathing that goes in with that because you feel like this is a burden to your life when in reality, you know people who are bigger than you who don't have the same issue.
Yeah.
I say that because we're pretty fat in our country.
Yeah. Right.
So I can just make the assumption.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there are people who are very much more so, more accepting. That doesn't mean they're enabled, but they have less different issues that aren't so withering or isolating.
Right.
The first thing that came to my mind before I even said a word to you is, how lonely are you?
Well, that's interesting. Recently divorced. It's been about a year now. But I'm in a new relationship now that's going really well. So I don't
take out those. I don't want to. It's not about other people. It really is about when you're with yourself. How lonely is it? Do you feel really alone or isolated?
Yeah.
That's what I'm coming down to. We've got to get to where you're alone and don't feel that way.
Okay.
As a child, do you remember being alone quite a bit and it not even affecting you? It wasn't an issue. Do you remember how anything from childhood where you could have been alone playing with a toy for hours on end?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And there was, okay.
Yeah.
That's what we need to get you back to.
Okay. All right.
Age shouldn't be affecting this.
Okay.
If you can be alone and have your own world of creativity, that feeling will go away. And what do you think is going to happen to this depression?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I speaking truth? Does it match? Don't say yes because of me, but you've got to kind of go, holy shit. If that made sense for you, then we need to go right in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first thing I felt was incredible loneliness.
Really? Wow, that's.
And who knows the accuracy, but it isn't about who you hang out with, because you can hang out with people and still be very lonely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 I've always kind of felt like I was. Yeah.
I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah.
100% completely. Otherwise, I don't think I would have understood or felt that way.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like, and it almost feels like there's no way out. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to say, hey, I'm in my own dark pit grave.
Yeah.
And I can have fun in here. We can explore. And so you don't, you're not going to need to compensate for any of that. Okay. A lot of times when people feel that type of isolation or loneliness, is they gravitate towards the body. Oh. Interesting. Wow. Sure. Because that's really the only thing you have that you think is yours, but ultimately it's just physical. Yeah. It's not even your body, it's just a house that your soul resides in. Right. It's the one thing that people who are really isolated, they seek some form, because it is something you can do alone.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Eating.
Yeah.
Or exercise, because it can go in many directions how this addiction works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to close this with that kind of view, which is go back to what it felt like as a child that didn't gravitate to the body for fun. You gravitated toward exploration.
Sure.
Okay. And creativity. Okay. And part of that requires you let go of parameters. Okay? Because these outside parameters for many people are what it feels like a jail cell. I can't do that because of this. Right. A child doesn't think in terms of parameters because they don't know that they exist. Right. They're taught.
Yep.
So their mind is capable of going on so many different directions. They can create up the stupidest thing that someone could judge, but they don't care because they don't know that there's judgment yet. You need to get back to that and then move forward from there, because ultimately that right there is an expression of the truth of who you are. What are your likes? What do you like to do? What do you want to create? What do you want to be? That is where the do-over begins.
Okay.
And it isn't, well, I need to look better.
Right.
Does a child really think that way?
No.
No, because, again, they don't understand that there's a physical parameter that has to be met to be liked and loved and whatever.
Yeah.
It's a learned thing. All right. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, yeah.